Okie Hi, everyone. I hope you're well today. I noticed my mum hasn't got on. Are you on, Mum? Okay. No problem. I think she was fighting with her computer before, but I didn't have enough time to help her out because I was on time, not running late, but on time instead of ahead of time. So, well, like I said, I hope everybody's doing well, staying cool in the places where it's hot, staying warm in the places where it's cold, like here right now, but not as cold as many other places, of course. We don't really get freezing weather on occasions, maybe, but very, very rarely. I think it feels like 5 or 6 degrees today, but it's actually probably about 12, I'd say, top temperature. So my nose is cold. My head's cold. I had a beanie on before. So anyway, let's do the chanting straight away before we have our meditations and Dharma talk. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. Take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, about to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, about to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, about to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, about to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Buddhisoha. Tayata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Buddhisoha. Tayata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Buddhisoha. And so now you can guide yourselves through the meditation to release the tension from the body, starting at the bottom of the body and working your way to the tip or the top of your head. And I will chant the Heart Sutra as you do so, okay? Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra, the heart of the perfection of wisdom scripture. Avalokitesvara bodhisattva, when practicing deeply in prajna paramita, perceive that all five skandhas are empty, thus transcending suffering and distress. Sariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. Feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness are likewise like this. Sariputra, all dharmas are fundamentally emptiness. No birth, no death. Nothing is pure. Nothing is defiled. Nothing increases or decreases. Hence, in emptiness there are no forms, no feelings, no thoughts, no impulses, no consciousness, no I, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no tasting, no touching, no thinking, no realm of vision, up to and including no realm of thought, no ignorance and no end of ignorance, up to and including no old age and death and no end to old age and death, no suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no wisdom, no attainment. Indeed, there is nothing to be attained. The bodhisattva depends on prajna paramita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear, far beyond delusive thinking, they finally awaken to complete nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future depend on prajna paramita and the Trinanuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that the prajna paramita dharani is the highest dharani, the brightest dharani, the peerless dharani, the supreme dharani, which completely ends all suffering. Know this is truth and do not doubt. So proclaim the prajna paramita dharani, proclaim this dharani, and declare Dayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Buddhi Soha. And so now you can, focusing on the breathing process or the feeling of the breath as we breathe in and out of our nose. So initially focus on the tip of the nose, then follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe all the way into your lungs and back out your nose again, so on and so forth. If you like, you can add the extra technique of counting your breaths from 1 up to 10. Don't go past 10 though. And if you get distracted on the way towards 10, then go back to 1 at that time. Just a little extra technique to help you keep focused on the feeling of the breath. So when you have any thoughts arise or other mental activities, don't cling to them, don't grasp at them or try to force them away either, or deny them even. But very simply, naturally, replace your mind back onto your breath. And as you do so, letting go of these mental activities or thoughts or the like. You may have to do this often. Sometimes, other times, maybe not so much. And if your mind becomes dull, then wake it up a little by refocusing on your breath more brightly. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. All you have to do physically is breathe. Mentally, focus on the breathing. Basically. Of course, mentally, if your mind wanders, you have to replace the mind back onto the breath. So you can do this now in silence, even though it won't be silent because I will be chanting the mantras. Pay attention to that. Just let it give you the vibes, good vibes, so you can focus on your breathing. Mahakaruna Dharani. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva when practicing deeply in Prajnaparamita. Oh, that's the Heart Sutra, sorry. Namo Ratnatraya, Namo Arya, Avalokitesvaraya, Bodhisattvaya, Mahasattvaya, Mahakarunakaya. Sattvalavati Sudana Tasiya Namaskritvana Manariya Vologudisvara Landaba Namoni Kandarshi Mahapata Shami Savavati Shubhamashiyum Savasava Namo Basava Namo Bhagama Bate Tutayata Avolokilokati Kalati Siri Maha Sava Sabo Sabo Mara Mara Mashi Mashire Dayu Guru 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 Damayin Guru Duru Bashiyate Maha Bashiyate Dara Dara Derenesvare Jala Jala Mahaba Mara Mudele Ehi Ehi Shinna Shinna Hala Shimbara Shale Basha Basdimbara Shaya Hulu Hulu Pera Hulu Hulu Shiri Sara Sara Siri Siri Suru Suru Buddhaya, Buddhaya, Bodhaya, Bodhaya, Maitreya, Nilikansta, Tisarana, Bayamana, Soha, Sitaya, Soha, Mahasitaya, Soha, Sitya, Yeshvaraya, Soha, Nilikanda, Soha, Pranila, Soha, Shrisama, Mukaya, Soha, Sarva, Mahasastaya, Soha, Chakrastaya, Soha, Padmakasaya, Soha, Danilikante, Pandilaya, Soha, Mopole Shankaraya Sohana Moradna Treya Namo Hariya Volakitishvaraya Soha Siddhanto Mantrapateya Soha Namo Radnatraya Namo Arya Jiyana Sagara Viroshana Buhara Teya Tatagateya Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Sarvatata Biyarata Samya Sambuddha Biya Namo Arya Volagitishvaraya Bodhisattvaya Mahasatvaya Mahakarunakaya Tayata Dara dara dere dere duru duru ete vote shale shale parshale parshale kusume kusume vare ele mele siti zala apanaye so Om Ram Om Ziram Mani Padme Hum Om Zale Zule Zande Zwaha Param Chiram Mani Padme Om Sale Sule Sande Swaha Om Ram Om Chiram Mani Padme Om Sale Sule Sande Swaha Om Mani Padme 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 So now you can feel pleased with yourself and fill yourself with universal loving kindness, utilizing the visualization technique of filling your whole being with the white light, which represents the universal loving kindness. And once again, a reminder that universal loving kindness is not separate from universal compassion, not separate from universal empathetic joy, and not separate from equanimity. In fact, based on equanimity. Really feel nice. You've forgiven yourself for anything that you may have done that you think you shouldn't have, or things that you didn't do that you think you should have, etc., etc. You've let go and forgiven others that may have brought you harm. You've let go and having others forgive you for bringing them harm, if possible, or if you did. And also you accept yourself, appreciate yourself, have gratitude towards yourself, and, like I said, respect. Full of friendship and goodwill. So much so that it now overflows and radiates outwards from your heart center, entering into the heart centers and filling the beings in front of you. Initially your loved ones, family and friends. That also includes strangers. Oh, I should have mentioned too that have the wish that these beings, people, and all other sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, are free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and that are peaceful and free from conflict. May they be wise and generous, moral, patient, enthusiastic, well concentrated, compassionate. Go on. And they'll also include those you may regard as enemies, and do likewise. And now you can include all sentient beings without limit, whether you know about them or not. All the sentient beings that live on the land and even under the land, in the waters, salt waters, fresh water, fly through the air, born from wombs or eggs or moisture or through transformation, whether in this realm or other realms that you know about or don't know about. So we're starting to radiate this love and kindness out further and further distance-wise, starting around your immediate area to all of these sentient beings. Now throughout your whole state or county. And all of the states and counties throughout your country. And all of the countries throughout the world, as well as all of the waterways or bodies of water, such as the oceans and so forth, down to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. So have your loving kindness pervade throughout this whole world as I recite the Metta Sutta. This is the work for those who are skilled and peaceful, who seek the good. May they be able and upright, honest, of gentle speech, and not proud. May they be content and easily supported, unburdened with their senses calmed. May they be wise and not arrogant, and without desire for the possessions of others. May they do nothing mean, or that the wise would reprove. May all sentient beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. Let no one deceive or despise another being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm upon another. Just as a mother would protect her only child with her life, even so let one cultivate a boundless love towards all sentient beings. Let one radiate this boundless love towards the entire world, above and below and in all directions, without hindrance, without ill will, without enmity. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down during all one's waking hours, may one remain mindful of this heart and this way of living that is the best in the world. Unattached to speculations, views, and sense desires, with clear vision, such a person will never be reborn in the cycles of suffering. So radiate this universal loving kindness out throughout the whole solar system and all of the solar systems throughout the galaxy and all of the galaxies throughout the universe and all the universes throughout infinite space. You can also have a far-reaching attitude or wish that may all sentient beings realize Buddhahood, realize Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, or realize unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. Now, present here and now to recite the dedication prayer as well. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious body, Chitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. So we'll continue the introduction to the Zen teachings, numerous Zen teachings, as I've called it. Utilizing the book Zen Speaks, Shouts of Nothingness. So I'm going to have to just reiterate a little bit what we finished up on last week, because I started on a different paragraph, a different section, and couldn't quite finish it. In fact, I don't even think I got halfway through. So I'll begin by reiterating a little bit. And this, you can say, subtitled Embodied Scripture. A common theme in this literature is the misdirection of most scholarly effort in its excessive specialization and verbose explications. Such effort was regarded as misdirected for at least two reasons. On a theoretical level, it failed to take seriously some of its fundamental doctrines. On a practical level, it was counterproductive. The doctrine of emptiness, referred to several times in Zen Speaks, was one of the principal teachings carried by Buddhist monks into China. Originally, it was one of the most difficult to understand, growing as it did out of complex philosophical debates that took place in India 400 years after the Buddha's death. Though its philosophical complexities were probably understood by only a minority of people in the Tang period, it had an immense influence on the development of Chinese thought and practice. I think it suited, a little bit commentary here, I think it suited the character of the people. It's, I don't want to sound biased to Buddhism, of course. Have a non-biased mind. Have in Tibetan what we call rimme, non-biased attitude in mind. But I think the Chinese people, or most of them at that time, their minds were ripe to hear the Buddha's teachings when they arrived, especially the Zen teachings that were brought to China from India by Master Bodhidharma. And their traditions that they've been practicing before that, the Taoism, Confucius teachings, and so on, actually, you could say, complemented the Dharma. So they were able to utilize the terminology as well as certain practices to explain the Dharma and to continue the meditation practice. So I think that they were already ripe. And even though it says here that maybe they didn't fully understand the Prajnaparamita teachings, the perfection of wisdom teachings, maybe they were very attracted to it because it sounded similar, even if it didn't sound similar. but they could see this is very profound. I need to practice. And so they would get off their butts and practice so that they could understand this profound teaching. Okay. There's something else. Okay, so basically saying from a theoretical level as well that they failed to take seriously some of its fundamental doctrines. Maybe didn't understand, but actually they failed to continue to study the Dharma and different aspects of the Dharma, and therefore probably thought that some of the scriptures, some of the teachings were opposing each other, even though they're not. You know, for instance, it says in the Lotus Sutra and other sutras, we all have Buddha nature. And then, of course, in the Prajnaparamita sutras, it says everything is empty. So is emptiness Buddha nature? Is Buddha nature empty? I was asked once by this wonderful Taiwanese nun that I met at an airport after traveling in Asia at that time. She said, in your tradition, do you say that the Buddha nature teachings are the highest teachings of the Buddha, or emptiness teachings the highest? And I said, how can they be separated? You can say form is emptiness, or you can replace that with Buddha nature is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is Buddha nature. So I answered her by saying something like, how can Buddha nature be anything but emptiness? How can emptiness be anything but Buddha nature? Okay. Excuse me. So it says the doctrine of emptiness referred to several times here was one of the principal teachings carried by the Buddhist monks into China, from India, of course. And another reason, and I mentioned this last week, was because it's so short. I think easy to remember, even if I don't get it yet, still easy to remember. I myself, I'm not claiming to have great skills in remembering things or whatever, but it took me a very little time to memorize this sutra, even if I didn't understand very much at all. But I remembered it. And of course, I was being taught by my master, so I broke it up into sections, which is what you do. You know, there's the 5 skandhas teaching in there. Of course, mentioning emptiness, mentioning Buddha nature, even though it doesn't use those words. The 18 dhatus, realms, are in there. 12 ayatanas are in there. The 6 senses, 6 sense doors are in there. 4 noble truths are there. 8-fold path is there. 6 paramitas, and so on and so forth. Okay, all in the sutra. So it was helpful that I was told that in the beginning, because I was able to memorize sections before moving on to the next section. That's what I'm alluding to. All right, so that'll do for that. Time. Without going into the philosophical intricacies of the emptiness doctrine, even though I did slightly just then, we can simply note here that it led to a form of radical non-dualism. So because form is emptiness, emptiness is form, it's non-dualistic. Even though we say emptiness, we say form. Sounds like dualistic thinking. From a relative point of view, from a non-enlightened point of view, it is dualistic, but it's pointing beyond that, beyond attachment to form, beyond attachment to nothingness. Okay, even though we use that word emptiness, it's not empty. You could say it's full of Buddha nature, but you can't say that either, because that's words and that's dualistic. But of course, we need to utilize words to express these teachings so that we all can put them into practice and realize the fruit, penetrate beyond dualism, beyond the concepts, and beyond the superficial meanings. Bodhidharma said that, if you become radical in the teachings, you're sort of like a extremist in a sense. You become, if what you're doing, you're grasping hold of it and say, this is my teaching, my favorite teaching. And then it's almost extremism from a Buddhist perspective. I'm not talking about the worldly thing now that is known as extremism, even though they relate. The implications of this view were that, in theory, distinctions between wisdom and ignorance, the mundane and transcendental realms, sacred and profane, mind and matter, were dualistic and hence unjustified. This non-dualism coincided with another teaching entering China at the same time. Namely, that all beings were born with Buddha nature. I mentioned this before. A doctrine maintaining that wisdom is innate in all beings. The question follows that if one has Buddha nature, and if ignorance is not different from wisdom, why isn't everybody wise and Buddhas? A simplified answer would be that we all are wise, but that we simply aren't yet awake. Remembering that the word Bud means awake, and the word Buddha comes from this, means awakened one. Thus, one shouldn't need to be told what emptiness or the truth is, since we are already in full possession of that. What is necessary is to wake up. However, in practice, many of the same teachers who lectured on emptiness engaged in and encouraged the study of scriptures in order to gain wisdom. They taught techniques for escaping this world and being reborn in Pure Land. They engaged in meditation in order to escape from impure, defiled states of mind into a pure, blissful state. Hence, implicit in these or in their practices was a dualistic understanding. It was clearly the case that for most, the view of emptiness remained just that, a view that conflicted with their dualistic approach to practice. In reaction to this, the Chan monks attempted to align their practices with their understanding of the Buddhist notion of emptiness. How they did that is what Zen speaks about. There arises the problem of how to teach that which needn't, indeed, or can't be taught. To emphasize the study of scripture leads to a focus on an external object as a source of wisdom, at the expense of the subject, the individual's own mind. If one were awake, it could only come through sensitivity to one's own mind. Excessive focus on texts or techniques, it was felt, would only serve to deaden that sensitivity. That one might have, instead of an excessive focus, an informed awareness of the scriptures, and not thereby become insensitive to one's mind appears consistent with the behavior of the authors of this literature. Hence, their critique is directed not so much at the scriptures themselves, but rather at the disembodied and counterproductive exposition of them. The wisdom that is the object of the Buddhist scriptures, if not embodied, is no wisdom at all, simply idle knowledge. This principle can be found underlying most Chan anecdotes. The principle is made explicit in an anecdote in which the principal or the disciple burns the precious book given him by his master, a teaching of Zen not reliant on the written word. The master is brought to task for not embodying his own teaching. The famous 13th century Japanese Zen monk Dogen wrote, "To understand these scriptures is to make of them one's own body and mind. It is to make of them one's own bed and walking. The behavior of a master, like his washing his face or his drinking tea, is not different from the teaching to be found in scriptures. In fact, it is an old scripture itself. It will be noted in these anecdotes that the context in which teaching is sought, transmitted, or realized is rarely a traditional one, such as a lecture hall, where the scriptures would be expounded. Rather, the context is most commonly the scene of some ordinary activity, such as a bathtub, the vegetable drying yard, the outlots of a temple, or in the grinding room, as in the case of Huineng. And so I'm glad we finished that one today. And what is the date next week? 18th. See, I'm doing this as a Zen teaching. So just doing mundane things and making a note for myself where we pick up next week and showing you that I'm doing that. Does that make sense? Just being in the moment. Nothing special. No magic. No mystical thing happening. Just here and now. Here and now in my little room, you in your room, but connecting, interconnected, connecting through a so-called computer, an internet, but really connecting with the mind. If we couldn't connect with our minds, then we could not communicate, connect at all. It may look like this physical thing of the computer or the internet or whatever it is, some sort of energy thing, but actually it's mental. That's the connection. Silence is good. Loving kindness, compassion helps to share this silence. Silence here represents wisdom in this example I'm giving. And of course, compassion and loving kindness represent the bodhicitta. So I rejoice in your goodness as always, and I see you next week to continue these teachings. Look after your mind, look after your body. Take good care.